told you that the most common psychoactive drug in the world is consumed by all ages, including children, every day. Many researchers and scientists have done extensive experiments and research on the psychoactive drug called caffeine. Caffeine is a major part of our society and world today, and there are many effects of the psychoactive drug, some being positive and others being negative. Caffeine is the most commonly used psychoactive drug in the world, and many people don't even know the effects of what they are consuming. In my survey that you all took, my first question asked you to select how many options you thought were psychoactive drugs. The options were LSD, alcohol, caffeine, cocaine, cannabis, and nicotine. The correct answer was to select all of them, which was only done by 3 out of 17 respondents. This told me that I needed to dive deeper into this section of my speech. Psychoactive drugs, what are they and where does caffeine stand? In the online resource entitled Here to Help, the authors of many health organizations explain what a psychoactive drug consists of. It says, caffeine is a psychoactive, mind-altering drug that affects how we think and feel. It is a stimulant that speeds up our breathing, heart rate, thoughts, and actions. As stated in the article, psychoactive drugs alter your mind and change how you act and feel. This is the reason people feel differently while using caffeine. Caffeine is not the only psychoactive drug. Caffeine is just a subgroup. As stated in the definition written by the National Cancer Institute, examples of psychoactive substances include alcohol, caffeine, nicotine, marijuana, and certain pain medications. Many illegal drugs, such as heroin, LSD, cocaine, and amphetamines, are also psychoactive substances. After reading this definition, most would conclude that many of the other psychoactive drugs are illegal and very harmful to the body, making it interesting to note that caffeine is virtually the only psychoactive substance that can be legally consumed by children. Out of all the psychoactive substances, caffeine stands as the most commonly used. The article entitled Caffeine, Cognitive and Physical Performance Enhancer or Psychoactive Drug, written by Simone Cappelletti, touches on the fact that caffeine is believed to be most commonly consumed psychostimulant in the world. The most common way it is ingested is as coffee. Many other drinks contain a large amount of caffeine as well, like tea, chocolatey drinks, cacao beverages, soft drinks, energy drinks, as well as soda. Although caffeine is the most commonly used psychoactive drug, most people don't even know it is a drug. Understanding that caffeine is a drug that alters your mind is important when consuming caffeine. But how do you know when you are consuming caffeine? I will now dive into the items that contain caffeine and where caffeine originates from. Caffeine can be naturally occurring as well as artificially occurring. As stated in the Here to Help website, caffeine is found in the seeds, leaves, fruit of certain shrubs, including coffee and tea plants. It can also be manufactured in a laboratory. As the quote explains, many items have caffeine in them naturally, while others have added caffeine. Many people don't know what items contain natural or artificial caffeine. Caffeine in its natural form is found in coffee beans, cacao beans, in the leaves and buds of teas, and guarana berries. As you can tell, the items that contain caffeine are plants, and many of these plants are incorporated into drinks. Natural coffee beans are blended into coffee, and that's what they look like, and then it turns into coffee, which is the reason coffee drinks are jam-packed with energy-causing ingredients. Just as coffee has caffeine, many other beverages do as well, including green and black tea. A very popular drink called Bubbler also contains natural caffeine. This drink gets its natural caffeine from the guarana berry fruit, which many people I don't think realize that is natural. Another item with naturally occurring caffeine is not a beverage, but is chocolate. Chocolate is made of cacao beans, which is the reason that it has natural caffeine. On the contrary to natural caffeine, there is also artificial caffeine. Items with artificial caffeine include energy drinks, such as Red Bull, Monster, and many others, and soda is also an item that has artificial caffeine. You can buy many things with synthetically created caffeine, including gum, ice cream, marshmallows, and many other random snacks that you probably didn't know you could get with added caffeine. Synthetically created caffeine is produced with a much higher concentration, and the body absorbs it much faster than naturally occurring caffeine. Now that you know the difference between naturally and artificially occurring caffeine, it is good to know the possible effects of caffeine. There are both positive and negative effects of the psychoactive drug. Some of the positive effects are highlighted in a diagram on Kristen Walter's article. Some of the possible benefits are increased alertness, decreased fatigue, improved reaction time, decreased appetite, which could slightly reduce weight gain, and finally, decreased risk of depression and suicide. There are common positives noted in the mental health sector of the body. In Andrew Smith's article, Effects of Caffeine on Human Behavior, he mentions some of those mental health benefits. He says, under certain circumstances, it may even reduce anxiety levels. It has been observed that caffeine reduces self-rated depression when administered in moderate doses. One more interesting benefit of caffeine is the ability to multitask. In the article written by Jamie Butcher et al., entitled Caffeine Intakes and the Perception of Its Effects on Health Among College Students, it explains increasing mood and reaction times, improvement in cognitive performance. Caffeine also improves the ability to multitask when combined with glucose. Many people would not realize there are so many positives of caffeine, including multitasking, which is a less known about effect. Just as there is positives of caffeine, it is still a drug, so there are negatives. Some of the possible harms of caffeine are listed on a diagram in Walter's article. The negatives include increased anxiety and sleep difficulty, withdrawal symptoms, which include headache, fatigue, depression, and lower infant birth weights if used at high doses during pregnancy. If used in very high doses, in doses higher than 1,200 milligrams, it can cause severe anxiety, increased blood pressure, and it may even be fatal if mixed with alcohol. If used shortly before attempting to fall asleep, then trouble getting to sleep will occur, meaning that lack of sleep is often a harm of caffeine. Negative effects also arise when people constantly use caffeine and then abruptly stop consuming it. This is called withdrawal. Withdrawal happens with many other drugs, including all of the other psychostimulants I mentioned. Andrew Smith explains in his article that negative moods come from withdrawal of caffeine. In the same article, Smith mentions that when caffeine is ingested in too high of a dose, it can cause anxiousness to occur, which is ironic because it is said to alleviate anxiety when used in moderate doses. In conclusion, caffeine can be beneficial when trying to stay awake or trying to gain energy. There are also many negatives to be aware of when consuming this stimulant. Those who consume caffeine on a regular basis should remember why it is considered a drug and consider the health effects. Caffeine has taken the world by storm and remains the most commonly used psychoactive drug in the world. Our society is one of many who enjoy the positive effects of caffeine, but have to suffer through the negatives. Now, I'm not here to persuade you into liking or disliking caffeine, but next time you sip on a caffeinated beverage, I hope you consider the effects. Thank you for listening.